Hey everybody, it's Kairos, and today you're going to learn from the highest ranked Ivern player in the world.
My name's Jamican Banana. I've been a high elo Ivern main since Season 6. On Ivern release, I played roughly 50 games on Ivern with a 75% win rate in low Challenger. And since then, I've been one of the highest ranked Iverns in the world, and now, trying to teach other Ivern mains how to play Ivern.
I'm really excited to have Jamican Banana joining us for this video. Together, we're going to break down his macro and decision making from a recent high elo game and learn more about how the best Ivern in the world dominates on this champion. Be sure to check out his Twitch, linked in the description below, for super chill and incredibly educational streams. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment to help out with the YouTube algorithm. Now let's get into the game. What was your game plan for the laning phase?
Well, typically for Ivern, you want to play usually to your side of your jungle camp, since Krugs is a less valuable camp on Ivern. You want to play to tapping Wolves and Gromp. So preferably you would like to play to that side. So this side, it was on top side. So I would prefer to play around Quinn Pantheon, which is already really in my favor because Quinn is a snowball champ, same with Pantheon. And bot lane, they kind of scale as long as the Felix doesn't fall too far behind. Felix and Maokai will do their job in team fights and objective fights.
And they go for the invade there, just knowing how weak Zac is in the early game. They also have a lot of follow-up CC at level 1. The root collar followed by a Pantheon stun. They have a lot of options and a lot of ability to get early pressure. So they get the ward on the red buff and then walk down to their own red buff to make sure there is no counter invade and that red buff isn't stolen from them on the bottom side in exchange for the top vision. And Jamican Banana's standard clear is to tap each of the blue side camps to get those going. So Wolves, Blue, and then Gromp. And then typically he will loop around to his own red buff most of the time and smite that and then go full clear his top side because those camps will be off their timer. And something to note, Ivern can mark all 3 of his camps in 15 seconds, and while Zac, being so weak in the early game, takes 34 seconds to clear 2 camps, and takes an entire 57 seconds, almost a minute, to clear his full blue side. And so Jamican Banana, he sees that he has priority in mid and top, and also knows that Zac is very weak and slow with his early clear. So he goes for the invade instead of going to take his own red buff. He goes in and smites the enemy red buff, knowing that there's really no counterplay to this. And then here's a pretty cool blast cone trick. He autos, while the auto animation is going to the blast cone over to collect the wolves, he throws root collar to the blue buff and he's able to collect the wolves and then pull himself to the blue buff, and it's just incredibly efficient, really cool trick. And it's not that hard. I was able to pick it up pretty quickly, and I think that you would be able to as well. And then he's hovering the top side right here because Quinn is abusing the Cho'Gath like we expected, and knowing that Zac is on the top side, he wants to hover and make sure that Quinn doesn't get ganked or that there is some counterplay there. And so they pick up the kill, and then Quinn's able to get the reset, gets the TP out, and then he heads over to mid lane.
I face check into Zac, and I did not expect him. Hitting that Q actually lost us the fight, as you can see. Because if I Q cancel the Zac here, Pantheon can take my Q, they're split and we're not, and we win the fight. But again, I was also caught by Zac's position, and I missed the Q, and it kind of lost the fight. Which is why the big thing with Ivern is like holding your Q, kind of like Lee Sin, because if Lee Sin misses Q, you lose the fight, and that's the same with Ivern.
And he is going to take a recall, but every time before recall, he goes and marks the camps that are nearby before he goes back. Because that way, when he's coming out of base, they're already available to be collected. So it's really efficient. And he was thinking of going for the scuttle there, but wouldn't have enough health. He would have to wait a little while and lose some time to be able to pick up the scuttle crab, because you need a certain amount of health to be able to collect it. But he did see Zac go into the top side, and so it's more than likely he'll be able to pick up the bottom scuttle. And he doesn't wait for full health coming out of the base. He knows that he's going to regen that. He has the red buff. He also has a smite charge. And then right around now, Zac actually shows on the top side. So he's ganking top on the Quinn. He still hasn't reset. And so that gives just a green light for Jamican Banana to go invade the bot side. 4 minutes. We know that Zac started bot, and so we know that his second spawn of camps on the bot side is coming up right about now. before going to invade, he gets the timer going on the Scuttle Crab so that he can go invade and come back. And it's really important to note that you want to have Smite available when you're counter invading or when you're invading. Otherwise, you cannot take camps.
And that's the reason why I go Cosmic Insight and Ionian Boots, because they get double Smite cooldown reduction.
And if fight breaks out bot, this is just really opportunistic, and there's only the one Jhin alive right now. He's the only survivor. So Pantheon leads, gets the shield to negate some of the turret damage. Jhin has no escape at this point. Pantheon does a really good job of negating some damage, saving his stun, and it's just an easy pickup. Now notice what he does with the wave. He wants to crash this wave so that it denies as much experience as possible to the Jhin to punish him as hard as they can off that kill. So he just barely gets the melees under turret. So if it was a little bit quicker, that would be awesome, but the timing didn't quite work out like that. And so you want to make sure you're always fixing waves. And here's a scuttle that he had marked before he went for the counter jungling and then for the dive. So he's getting a lot of value out of this bot side. In your pathing, you basically take every single camp, but then Krugs is completely neglected, and in your stream, it's basically a meme of like Krugs doesn't exist. So what's the thought process behind that of why Krugs are just never taken?
Yeah, so the way Ivern's passive works, Friend of the Forest, Ivern only gets one big Krug and one medium Krug. And the Krug camp itself, you get a total of 135 gold, and XP you get roughly 175 to 233. And that's for the whole camp. Whereas Ivern, since you only get that one big and one medium Krug, you only get 49 gold and 47 XP, which is only 30% of the gold and 27% XP. So using your resources to tap it is pretty much a waste of time, where you can be looking to steal enemy camps or counter jungling or looking for gank or counter gank.
He clears the Raptors right here, and then he's going to have his Wolves and then Gromp coming off a timer. So it's a straight line, very efficient, up into the top lane. So that tells us, seeing Zach on the bot side, he knows that top is weak side, and now there's fighting. He has an idea that he can pick up the kill up there, and he's going to hit level 6 off of the Gromp. Level 6 is 7 minutes, pretty good. And he has Daisy now to go and pressure this Cho'Gath. It's slow pushing towards Quinn, and so Cho'Gath would ideally like to crash this wave. He's going to try and prevent that. And notice his approach angle. He comes from behind so that Cho'Gath doesn't have an easy time retreating. And he uses Daisy to proc his E. So he doesn't have to get in melee range to actually get the slow from his E. And he places bushes. Every single gank, he places bushes so that he can get the extra auto attack damage. And then he sees Zach on the bottom side here and just goes ahead for the counter jungling. He has a level advantage right now. He has a smite charge up, like I mentioned, which is vital if you're counter jungling on Ivern. So he gets to steal that and then is kind of snooping around a little bit. And Zach shows up in the top side. He has a 2-level advantage, and Pantheon is able to join this fight, but unfortunately, Yasuo is the first to move, and then Cho'Gath as well is coming off a death timer, and so he's going to beat Quinn there. And the bad part of this is, first of all, that there's a lot of gold that he hasn't spent. There's about 2,000 gold still in his pocket, and so that's a lot of power that he's missing out on. And Quinn has a really good freeze in the top lane that he doesn't really, or she doesn't really want to move to help out in this fight. She would rather keep that freeze and deny the Cho'Gath as much as possible. At this point, he has about a 300 gold lead, and there's fighting in the top lane. He heads up to counter what Zach is doing, and is just applying shields to the carries of whoever's the damage dealer around him, and they're focusing down that Zach. He does get the passive, and then he saves E to try and proc it on all 4 blobs, which he does get. 2 of them don't die, but then he picks that up. Just really great target selection. Pantheon is roaming up to match the Yasuo. It's a really close call. Very well played by Pantheon to match that roam, and that just really feels bad for the enemy team to get nothing. And so they take down 3 members all on the top side. Bot lane, I think, is going to die here, but sometimes it be like that. But he's using Daisy. Daisy still had a lot of health and full timer, and so he's using her to tank the Rift Herald. He knows that there's no contest coming through. Zach won't be able to get there in time, and so he's just getting a lot of efficiency out of Daisy, of using her as a tank, getting maximum value out of her. And Cho'Gath goes in and just gets a solo kill in topside, but invests the flash and the ultimate. So they see this and immediately go down. And again, he's using Daisy to proc his E, to be his damage for him and to just be a real nuisance, be super annoying. And they pick up the kill on Cho'Gath. Really, they had to know that that was coming, that Cho'Gath was going to die for that dive. But good heads up play to make sure that he gets punished for that. And again, he just is marking camps before he backs so that they will be available for him to collect when he is back on the map. Really efficient, great use of time. And there's a fight in mid lane here. Quinn is roaming over because Cho'Gath is still coming out of base. And so this is just a good team fight. Your team isn't always going to get these. You aren't going to be in every fight though, so it's good to see them pick up some of those kills, even without the jungler around. Pantheon is looking for the collapse on Jhin. Jamican Banana just gives him the shield. They force the flash out. The shield, though, on Pantheon going out, it could give you an assist. If he ends up getting the kill, it could be a slow. It costs you nothing. And so it's just really small efficiencies right there that could make a difference at the end of the day when margins are really slim. So might as well just give him the shield, see what happens. They do get the flash out, which is a really big cooldown. Trading the Pantheon ultimate for that is definitely worth. And with 2 minutes left before the Rift Herald or before the plates expire, they want to use Rift Herald to get maximum value. And so he's looking up at top side, knowing that the Cho'Gath doesn't have flash available. But unfortunately, even with the Kraken Slayer completed on Quinn, Cho'Gath is still just too tanky at this point. Lots of HP, full health, and has the completed steel plate caps. And there's not... It's a really close call. This almost works out. I think if Quinn had Ignite, that for sure would have been a kill, but it gets really sloppy. And because it's a high health target, that gives a lot of time for Yasuo to roam up to the top side. So this is kind of a telegraphed dive. They know that it's coming. Yasuo has time to react and to come up and to make this an even 2v2. They do get the turret plates from Herald, and they end up picking the kill on Cho'Gath. It just takes like a full minute longer than they were hoping for. And like I mentioned, Yasuo gets to come up, he uses the Ignite to pick up the kill on the Quinn, and then the next minion wave comes in for him to work with to get the kill on Ivern. And so if it was any other target and it was not a tank, then this might have worked out a lot better for them, but the HP bar was just too much to get through in a short amount of time. In the Pantheon's response on the bot side, he roams. Instead of going top, he goes bot. They pick up a 2 for 2. This isn't ideal because they don't kill the Jhin, who has a shutdown, but they still get the 2 kills. Aphelios gets to farm up a little bit more, and I think they might have gotten another turret plate in there. And so they tried to force a play on the opposite side when they saw that Yasuo roamed top. Just the execution could have been a little bit better. Jamican Banana now has over a 1k gold lead just on himself over the Zac, and so he's funneling a lot of gold onto himself, farming really efficiently, and he answers this top gank, so he's able to not quite counter gank, but he goes and Cho'Gath greets for the wave. He puts himself in a position to capitalize on that, picks up a pretty easy kill, again getting full value out of Daisy, proccing the E's, tanking for the dives, just really good mastery. I mean, we would expect nothing less on the best Ivern in the world of really solid mastery. And he stays to get the top turret. Unfortunately, he gets punished by that, by the Zac, and he ends up getting killed. He flashes over the wall to almost escape with the Nimbus Cloak move speed, but then the Q from Zac and the ward that he placed ends up being his doom. He might have wished that he didn't place that ward if he knew the end result, but does get the turret, and it is first turret, so it's a good pickup. And then bot is just doing bot things. There goes the Maokai. They do pick up the kill, and Aphelios turns it around and is just showing the snowball potential, and his team's working really proactively around the map. They're only 1k up right now, and the gold is in pretty good places, and the enemy team is also happy. I mean, their Yasuo is positive. He has a big CS lead, and then the Jhin is 5-2 at this point and is only going to get stronger. And now they are rotating to pick up the dragon for free, and because he cleared his top, or because he marked his top all at the same time, he gets to clear them all at the same time. Really efficient clearing, like what, 8 seconds to pick up 3 camps if you have them prepped. It's really good stuff. And Zach shows in the bot lane here, they're collapsing on the Aphelios who's overextended, so they know they can make a play on top side. And Cho'Gath is a little bit out of position, and they get to melt through him, knowing that there's nothing that they can do. And so they're trading sides of the map really well. Bot lane is weak, top side is strong, so they're giving up bot side and they're making plays on top. And Cho'Gath, if he was playing this optimally, would just back off and get out of there sooner. And they saw Zach on the bottom side, and Zach is still lingering there, and that is their weak side. So they see a Yasuo that they think is out of position, but then they forget about the Zach, and it's kind of the blind side. They don't remember that he is still in the area, and they just end up taking a losing fight here. They almost are able to get out of it or turn it a little bit, and it's not all lost, because Aphelios joins and then Pantheon comes in towards the end, but Yasuo is just really surviving for a long time as the Vampiric Scepter healing him up. Quinn comes in, but then gets clapped. The end result is just a 5 for 2, basically coming off not respecting the strong side versus weak side of the map. They see Yasuo reset, which actually gives them a short window to go and take the Rift Herald. They know that he's basically their strongest member right now, and since he won't be in this fight, they can set up vision, they can take the Rift Herald before it despawns in about a minute, and then they'll have that to use in their next team fight or for a siege situation. Now they're setting up the NA RAM in mid with the Rift Herald that they're about to drop, and it's just a straight 4v5 right now because Cho'Gath is in the top side, but Zach has a lot of room to work with, and so they're kind of overextended with having a Zach on the enemy team. They aren't respecting the engage range, and he comes in and basically just starts off the fight really well for the enemy team. They end up picking up a kill immediately. They kill the Pantheon, and then it's just kiting back for Ivern's team. He's still alive, and the Aphelios is pumping out quite a bit of damage, and it's starting to look really good for them. But then Alistar gets his spell rotations up again, and you can tell that they're really close to a breaking point where they can win front-to-back team fights. And he almost gets the Q out, tries to use Alistar as an escape, doesn't quite work, it gets interrupted, but that would have been pretty sweet if it went through. So at this point, they're playing into the enemy team's win conditions. The enemy team wants just big team fights where their team wants to set up picks, and they want to fight uneven fights. They want to get 1 kill or 2 kills and then team fight around an objective. But if they can't get numbers advantages, then they're most likely going to lose a front-to-back team fight just because of how strong the engage is from the enemy team. And the dragon is coming up now. This is going to be the second Drake, and they basically learned immediately from the last team fight. And now they're starting with vision control, because you can't have a pit comp without first getting vision control. And Cho'Gath takes a greedy path right here, and they're able to just collapse on him. They have vision control. They feel very confident going for this pick, even though he's tanky. And then Quinn is coming in with the flank. Yasuo isn't even able to join. He's the strongest person on the team. He's not even there. They kill the Cho'Gath, and then they also get to pick up the kill on the Alistar. They force Jin's flash. Yasuo is just now passing Dragon. And so it's a great job controlling vision and then punishing poor positioning to get a pick, and then they're converting that into an objective. So they're going and they're taking the Baron, and the enemy team, because they're smart, they should just go for the Drake, and they do end up getting the Drake eventually. And they're trying to zone off the Zac to make sure that he isn't able to steal the Baron right here. So they have a sapling there, and he still walks up. It's a little bit too late, but the slow from saplings, which is pretty oppressive right now, just gets him picked out, and he dies. And so that opens up counter jungling for the whole top side for Ivern. Cho'Gath shows up top lane, and with Quinn and Ivern in the area, this is a pretty free pick. Knowing that Yasuo was on the bot side. Also, Quinn has the Kraken Slayer and Mortal Reminder finished, and so there's not much counterplay. Not much that the Cho'Gath can do except for not greed for the wave in this situation. And again, the bushes are planted to get extra damage on the autos. Daisy is proccing ease, and it's a slow whittle down, but eventually they do get the Cho'Gath. The enemy team starts the rotation over. Quinn is a little bit greedy with the reset, and they're all rotating over. And Ivern's able to get out, and then Quinn trades for another one. So picks up the Jhin. Jhin didn't have flash from that last fight in mid lane. And also, while the enemy team is collapsing, the Aphelios goes into mid and pushes the wave and gets the mid turret. And so that's really good, just heads up of if I can't join a fight, I'm just going to push wherever I'm at and try to get an advantage here. Pantheon is also pushing the bot wave. And so hopefully the other team will be losing farm in the bot side. And so they're kind of dragging the red side team all over the map at this point. So what are kind of the different ways that you use brushes? Because there's a lot of creativity that I've seen in your gameplay where obviously we've seen places where you're dropping brushes for the auto attack advantages. And then also you're setting up basically bushes around objectives that people won't want to face check. What are kind of all the ways that you use brushes in your gameplay?
Yeah, I think really good ways of using brushes is, one example is using Fog of War to your advantage. So say if you're getting chased down by a team, you can use bushes in front of you. So when you walk into them, they lose vision of you. Or even during a 2v2 or 3v3, you can place bushes and dip in and out of combat of the bush. And they will be dropping autos or will hold their abilities, whereas you will be able to keep DPSing while they can't.
And you're kind of creating chaos. You're creating chaos in a way of it's just a lot scrappier.
Yeah, and then also with Bushmaker, you get damage while in the bushes, but after you step out of bush, you have 3 seconds where you still deal damage while out of bush. So being out of bushes, you always want to step out for 2 seconds and then go back in, step back out to reset that Fog of War and your passive damage on hit. And the other thing is also sieging. Siege, you can definitely deny a lot of vision in either the jungle or through lanes, setting up walls of bushes, so the enemy will have to either play vision around it. They'll have to drop pinks or regular wards, and you could just kind of obscure vision in team fights or setting up for a pick. Another bush you can also do is you bush in front of a gank. So say if you're ganking top lane, you're behind the top, you can drop a bush behind them and then summon Daisy so they don't see the animation, since it's a 0.5 cast time. And then the Daisy, you can send Daisy through the brush, drop a shield on Daisy, and then the enemy's POV, they'll just see nothing except Daisy popping out the shield, and you could just slow them, land a guaranteed Q, knock up, and just guarantee a kill. Another important bush that I do pretty often, this is really unique to me, there's no other Ivern main who does this kind of bush, is while I'm mostly only in the early game and mid game, I will place bushes on my laners. So say if I'm walking past mid, I'll bush near their tower, or if I'm walking past bot, I'll bush in the lane. So the enemy will just see a bush behind the minion wave, so they don't know if I'm actually in the bush looking for a counter gank, or I'm just putting a bush and walking away to create fake pressure.
Now with the dragon spawning the next minute, they're trying to duplicate what gave them success in the last objective setup. So they're getting vision in the enemy jungle, and then they're trying to get a pick from that, secure a pick, and then turn that into the objective. And right now, Jamican Banana, he's waiting as long as he can to pick up the red buff. He lets it sit there a little bit to make sure that he has it up for the team fight that's going to be coming up. So he's letting it sit there to make sure that he has it when he needs to have it to be efficient. And he's setting up bushes around here and just kind of creating a wall of vision around the blue buff. It's just an area that the other team isn't going to feel comfortable face checking with the saplings, with all that stuff. And here they see 3 people mid, and then Cho'Gath shows on the bot side pushing. And with their global advantage, it's a really easy collapse. So they come over and they again try for this pick on the Cho'Gath. They do convert that into a kill, and so they start off the fight really well. And where it gets a little bit sloppy here is when they try to translate this into more kills. So the team is very split. Maokai and Aphelios see the All-Star flank and want to go at him. Pantheon is finishing off the Zac, and then Quinn is basically diving the base trying to kill this Yasuo, gets out of range of the Ivern shields, and then Ivern has to jump back out to disengage and try to escape from that. And then Aphelios goes and tries to chase down the All-Star, ends up trading his life for that, a little bit greedy. When this started off with a clean pick, and if they had improved their target selection, it would have been much cleaner. They would have been able to pick up another kill or two for free and then turn onto the dragon much easier. But instead, Instead, by chasing and splitting targets, they open themselves up to a counter engage. We see the TP coming in here from Cho'Gath, and it's just looking really scary right now. Fortunately, they have good disengage tools. Maokai used the ultimate just for disengage, and then the other team actually ends up making the same exact mistake. They overchase, they try to catch this Pantheon, and then the fight just gets turned right back on them. Cooldowns are back up, they kill the Cho'Gath, and then they're able to continue chasing the Yasuo here, because Jhin is still dead, Cho'Gath is now dead. There's nobody really else here to join the fight and to help him out. So this is a big pickup, and that is exactly why you don't want to overchase, you don't want to over pursue, and especially with the pick comp, it's really important to be on the same page with your communication of who you're targeting and who you are trying to basically kill first and then next, and be on the same page with your teammates. And this leads directly to Baron. Knowing that Yasuo's down is pretty big, and also that Cho'Gath doesn't have TP. Without the TP, Aphelios just starts it up immediately. He's able to sustain up pretty well, has the Vamp Scepter, and they just have no hesitation in pulling the trigger. And again, look at the vision control. The enemy jungle is just littered with wards. They feel very confident taking this. Zac has literally no chance at trying to steal this, and so the over pursuit by the enemy team just completely opens it up for a free Baron in this case. And together they siege mid, so they crash a wave and they get to take this turret, but they don't overstay, giving Zac an opportunity for the long range engage. After they take the turret, they're immediately looking at the next wave that they can push and the next part of the map that they can pressure with their Baron buff, because without vision control, the Zac long range engage is a big threat. So now they rotate up into the top lane to take down that turret as well. The one problem is, again, a little bit of disjointed communication. Quinn and Maokai are trying to look for a pick on Yasuo while the rest of the team is sieging. Then Yasuo lands the two-man NATO, goes in, and then just they blow up Maokai and Quinn, who are trying to get that pick. So they were looking for the pick, but it wasn't coordinated with the rest of the team. And they're very open to another engage. Fortunately, they're just a little bit outside of Zac's engage range. And also, Yasuo had already used his ultimate, and so some of the cooldowns aren't there for the enemy team. And here they get a reset. It could have been a lot worse, but the damage is mitigated a little bit there. As you're transitioning out of the lane phase into this, like, you look at your team, it's pretty pick heavy. I mean, with the Quinn, with you, it's a lot of CC, like single target. The enemy team is super team fight oriented. So how did you want to play out these team fights?
Yeah, the team fights are really rough because we had no front line and little lack of CC. So our only chance of winning fights is kind of nuking someone right away in fights, or just slowly cutting back with, the Maokai saplings, Aphelios cutting back, and me just dropping shields on everyone and slowly coming back until we can re-engage and then look for a burst on someone. Zac's pretty rough because you have no way to actually stop his engage. So usually against Zac, you want to be the one engaging before he does, either through like a pick or like something like that.
Yeah, so it's basically get vision around an objective, get a pick, and then like you have a chance of winning the fight. And they found the winning formula. It's vision control into a pick. And so they're trying to take that same strategy again. They see 3 people in the mid lane. They know it's a little bit safe, or it's pretty safe to place vision right now and just control the blue quadrant of the enemy's jungle with the control wards, pink wards, brushes, saplings, all of that kind of stuff that's really fun to face check. And they're sending Quinn up into the top side. They don't have a TP, which is actually pretty big here, but Quinn is the most able to join from a global range. Pantheon ult from top lane won't quite get him to the dragon, and so they're relying on the Quinn split push to secure pressure in the top side and then rotate over to Drake before it spawns when there's about 30 seconds left here. And they're just controlling vision on the bottom side. Quinn finishes shoving and starts her rotation down, and the enemy team, this is actually pretty smart. They're expecting this rotation, and they catch her out in the middle of it, and they get a pick. But they do this a little bit too close to the Drake timer, so they wait a little bit too long, and now with the control that Ivern's team has, they can just burn down this Drake really quickly.
Quinn gets caught topside, but even though we're down Quinn, we're still very, very strong. They have to face check a Maokai, which means they're all getting chunked. And with me being pre-full build, I could kind of pocket Aphelios and Pantheon, and we could probably just win 45 since they're pretty low from Maokai. and Pantheon is extremely strong. So with Redemption and just E spam over and over, they really done a real consistent damage to kill Pantheon. And as you see that here, I'm just constantly shielding him, making sure Pantheon stays alive. So if Pantheon's alive, we win. I'd rather save my shield for kind of anyone else, since he's kind of the carry right now.
It's really just keeping Pantheon alive. I'm a little bit surprised myself at like how well he's scaling, because he's never been known as like a scaling champ, but this is like, watching him is pretty scary. And he's down 50 CS, 60 CS, but it's like...
Yeah, the Pantheon changes actually made him pretty well into the mid-late game.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it also depends on optimization building. I think Pantheon's pretty good if they pick a pretty tankier team comp, because like you can go this build and like you still do a lot of damage to carries, but you still like are a threat to tanks, and you have like the sustain, you have the E to stall fights long and stuff.
Right. Pantheon just lives forever. And then Jamican Banana is surviving forever, also shielding the rest of his team, getting maximum value there. And they do a pretty good job of denying the brunt of the engage from the Zac Yasuo, and then they just win over an extended period of time. They absorb the burst and then turn it back around through a more drawn-out fight, using the value of the shields and of the Pantheon, who is just pumping out quite a bit of damage, healing a lot and staying topped off with the Gore Drinker. Now we're at the final fight. Maokai is up there securing vision. We've already established this is the winning recipe. Getting vision control, look for a pick. And here, Zac is actually trying to be proactive. So he engages. Cho'Gath is on the bottom side and has TP. His engage doesn't land, and Alistar and Jhin aren't able to actually follow up on this. So it's basically a 2v5 for about the first 10 seconds. Quinn zones off the Jhin for a few seconds, and Cho'Gath just doesn't use his TP. Even with the TP, it would have had a channel time, and this fight happened pretty quickly, and so it wouldn't have made a huge difference. But this ends up being the end of the game. The Zac engage, followed by the Yasuo, but then Alistar and Jhin just can't follow up. But the whole team on blue side is collected, they're condensed, and they are able to deal with the engage, and then peel the Pantheon, peel the Aphelios. The only one who ends up dying is Maokai. And so that is the end of this game. They end up pulling out the victory after a few really good team fights around objectives. That's going to wrap up this video. A huge thank you to Jamican Banana for joining us for this gameplay analysis. Be sure to go show him some love on his Twitch if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I just got a second monitor like a week ago. Before that, I would unironically play the game alt-tab. So I would play Borealis and leave my chat in the top right of my screen, and I would play alt-tab.
Dude,
and I would just reach and play alt-tab.
That's ridiculous.
People are like, you're lying. I'm like, I swear, dude, that's why I'm literally playing the game alt-tab. Just reading chat. So, like, I didn't think I would need a second monitor, but it's actually like so helpful.